That time doing tech support turned out positive for the customer. The story of Emily. Hi all, I have seen stories from this subreddit and another site, and finally gathered the courage to share one from my more than 10 years of providing volunteer technical support. Please note that all first names used have been altered. The backstory: a friend and I established a small student-run help desk while we were still in high school, which eventually expanded to the 800-plus person workforce we have today. Everyone in all departments is entirely volunteer and participates, just for fun, or just to keep our minds engaged, as we are all either financially challenged high school students or receiving disability. Given that our entire operation is as relaxed as it is, corporate policy does not hold the same importance as it might in a large corporate center like Comcast, AT&T, etc. Even though this place is quite casual, there are certain matters we simply cannot overlook. This story exemplifies one of those instances where adhering to policy actually benefited the customer. It's somewhat comforting to know that our customer relationship management software, Microsoft Dynamics Customer Relationship Management 4.0, yes, we operate on a very limited budget, has been customized as follows. 1. Accounts, referred to as jackets, are groups of one or more individuals, e.g., a business, a family, etc., e.g., the Smith family, and that is where the security question and personal identification number are stored. 2. The contacts or cards are the individual persons, e.g., Mr. John Smith. Each of these sections has a tab titled Alerts and Warnings, or something similar that is meant for those items we do not want or cannot permit to get lost in the general notes, since every time you add a note, it pushes the previous ones down, making it nearly impossible to locate a disability alert that was documented 120 phone calls ago, unless it is in the alerts section. This entire situation occurred approximately 7 years ago, so my recollection of events may be slightly inaccurate. Cast me for the purpose of this narrative, you can call me Lindsay. I am your friendly neighborhood person on the phones. CX, the customer whose situation intersected with my life. For this story, let's refer to her as Emily. EB, an individual in Emily's life who was extremely unpleasant. JM, our head of security. KM, my supervisor and the chief executive officer of the entire organization. Now let the chaotic show commence. Everything was calm. I had just returned from lunch and processed a few tickets for simple issues, password resets, homepage modifications, etc. When finally my phone rings me. Thank you for calling company name support. My name is Lindsay. May I start by obtaining your first and last name, a reliable callback phone number, and a brief description of the issue? CX provides required information, and it turns out she needed assistance converting a Word document to a PDF and sending it to her teacher for school. Me, I look her up in the customer relationship management system and begin to troubleshoot the issue when, in the background, I hear a man who is clearly angry yelling at my customer. CX tries to convince the man that she is working with technical support to prepare a project for school, and if she does not complete it before class tomorrow morning, her grade in some class will fall below an A. Here's shouting and crying and what sounds like a not very pleasant situation on the other end of the phone, so I immediately message my supervisor with what is happening, and she instructs me to message the head of security. That conversation goes as follows: me, JM, do you have a moment? I have a concerning call. Explains situation, and I have already informed KM of what is occurring. JM, Lindsay, yes, I have some time. Let me investigate. While I do that, please keep the line open in case she returns to conclude the matter. KM, me, on your next contact, or if the situation calms down, have her create an encrypted Word document, OneNote file, something, and have her submit the password for that file via ticket and encourage her to document everything. If something goes really poorly, and she needs to provide information to law enforcement or a similar authority, they can call here and obtain that password if she is in an unsafe position to provide it to them. I know this is not a usual practice for us, and I understand we don't serve as a password vault for customers, but this situation seems severe. JM, I am happy to assist where I can, just keep me updated. Eventually, the yelling subsides and the customer returns to the phone, and we finalize the original task as I guide her through what KM instructed me to have her do. She completes it, and we work towards concluding the call, while I document the situation in the customer relationship management system. A few weeks pass, and I receive a call from EB of all individuals. He had chosen to rummage through CX's laptop while she was at school and stumbled upon one of several copies of the journal file, subsequently deciding to call us to try and open it, and that call proceeds as follows: me standard greeting. EB provides me with the original CX's information and explains the locked file. Me, sir, I see. There is a profile under that name, but I will require both the security answer and personal identification number to delve deeper into this account. EB provides the security question and personal identification number. Me looks under the contacts section of the account, and I inquire about his name. Shocker, it is not there. Me, I regret to inform you, sir, that although you have successfully verified the account security details, I am unable to assist you because your name is not on the account, and the only person listed there is Emily. You will need to have her contact us again to add you as an authorized user or to create your own account. They are free, but that will not grant you access to this individual's account unless she adds you. EB embarks on a verbally abusive tirade about how we do not keep secrets in this family and how he intends to get my job and demands a supervisor immediately. Me, I gladly inform him that I will be connecting him with my CEO, who will convey the same information. I also clarify that 1, we do not store customer passwords of any kind in their profile for security reasons, thus we do not possess it. I lied through my teeth on that one. And 2, even if we did store user passwords, I could not disclose them without him being on the account. I inquire if he still desires to speak to my supervisor. EB, what part of now are you not comprehending? Insert derogatory term for a person of my race. I am white, by the way. Me, sir, I must inform you that if you are unable to maintain professionalism during this call, I will be compelled to terminate the call. Therefore, I kindly ask that you refrain from using that type of language when addressing me. For those curious about why I did not warn him sooner, it was because I knew it would not have been effective, plus I could not get a word in edgewise. During the entire exchange, I decided to send instant messages to KM and JM, notifying them about who I was dealing with and what was unfolding, and inquiring if KM was prepared to take the call. She uses an iPad for communication, so she prefers to confirm if she is ready and available before any transfer or simply calling her. KM acknowledges her readiness, and I proceed with the transfer. Let's just say it went as well as one might expect given the nature of the situation, in regard to how this individual was behaving towards me, and KM's use of an iPad for communication. After the transfer, I write up my notes and send a brief email to the customer, advising her that a storm is brewing at home and to be prepared for interesting times. She eventually replies, requesting the call recordings and my notes from our interactions if they are available, so she can forward them to a mandatory reporter, think teacher, counselor, etc. Typically, we do not provide copies of phone recordings, agent notes, or other customer relationship management data to customers, but considering the circumstances, KM approved the release, with strict conditions to ensure 1, it is the customer accessing it, and 2, it successfully reaches the mandated reporter. To achieve step 1, I personally handed this material to her on a flash drive at a McDonald's during lunch, and to accomplish step 2, I requested that she send me an email confirming it is in the hands of the mandated reporter. Well, fast forward about 3 weeks as I manage my tickets, and I access CX's profile because she had an unrelated ticket, and I needed to pull vendor information for one of her devices. The moment I open the account, I spot this information under the Alerts and Warnings tab. Think of it as a giant employee notepad for crucial matters like disability accommodations, abusive customer alerts, or other special handling instructions modifications to processes. Per ESD JM, this CX resides in a problematic environment with a man named Name. EB is known to make threats towards staff. Should he call in, do not disclose any information about this account or customer's status under any circumstances. Should EB call in, either 1, transfer to KM if available, or if that fails 2, Immediately disconnect and do not engage with the call. Be sure to log the call and 1. Alert ESD and 2. Send a follow-up to CX via ticket so she is aware to prepare for an impending crisis. Along with, per management KM, this customer has been maintaining an electronic diary about the previously mentioned issues with EB. Should a verified law enforcement officer, social worker, or similar authority reach out for information, the password is password. And now the conclusion of the tale. The last I heard from that customer, she is doing significantly better. As for EB, he continues to call in and create problems for staff, including myself and my colleagues, including KM, but we manage him appropriately. JM actually informed him during one of his calls, "Sir, good luck trying to get us shut down or losing our jobs. We are all entirely volunteers, so you will not be hurting us financially at all." I have more positive stories from that organization, but those are for another day. I just thought I would share this one, as I believe it would meet the definition of that one outrageous story that deserves to be made into a documentary. Story 2. Me, 18 and B, and my partner, 19 and B, have a very unstable relationship. How can we make this work again? Hello. To provide some context, my partner and I both have borderline personality disorder, autism, and a significant amount of trauma. We also share a history marked by many arguments and stress, and we have been trying to move beyond that. Recently, we have been facing a lot of challenges, and we both require assistance. We care for one another very deeply, perhaps even excessively. We are very similar and mean a great deal to each other, and if there is one thing we fear, it is living a life without one another. To clarify what occurred, it started when I expressed my feelings during a gaming session. I was sharing my concerns about our past and how it had impacted me. This upset my partner due to my choice of words and triggered a panic response. Following this, we took about 20 minutes to ourselves. They eventually fell asleep, and when I couldn't get a response, I became very anxious and started panicking when I called them, fearing something had happened. When we resumed our conversation, they experienced a breakdown and spoke about how we are not good for each other and how this has been ongoing for a long time. I felt confused, since everything seemed fine from my perspective, making this revelation feel abrupt. It became clear that they had been suppressing their needs for the entire 9 months we have been together. This revelation shocked me, as it was completely unexpected. Apparently, I had not been very attentive to them for some time, and I would sometimes react negatively when they sought my support due to my own fears. Following this, they granted me 1 week to determine if I could adequately meet their needs. I felt worried about how sudden and grave this situation was and began to question my capability. The next day, they shared feelings of despair about their life and admitted to contemplating suicide. I panicked due to the seriousness of their situation. I was afraid for them, especially since I realized I was not helping them feel cared for, so I voiced my concerns. However, my wording made it seem as though I was centering the conversation on myself instead of focusing on their needs, which caused them to shut down and withdraw for the next hour. I continuously checked in on them, but they insisted they were fine. Soon after, they attempted to address how I had phrased things. I became upset because, from my perspective, I was simply expressing concern for their well-being. I was confused and did not comprehend that my words had been inappropriate. At that moment, I felt blamed for merely expressing my worries. I then became defensive, reiterating my concern and insisting that I had not done anything wrong. I understand now that I should have been more considerate at that time and listened to their feelings. They shut down again. I tried to encourage them to open up, but sensed they were suppressing their emotions in favor of pleasing others. This heightened my panic as I could feel their distress and felt terrible. We both began to panic once more, and it was reiterated several times that we are not good for one another and that we are in a harmful situation. The following day, everything felt tense. I called them and noticed they were withdrawing again. They were vague about many things. When I asked if they were okay, they did not provide much of a response. They mentioned, "Let's just see how this week unfolds." When I inquired if they still trusted me, they replied, "We'll see." Our relationship hinges on fulfilling their needs, and they had given me a week to see if I could meet those expectations. I tried to show them affection that day, demonstrating my love and care, hoping they would understand how much they mean to me. Fast forward to the next morning, I expressed my feelings about suppressing my own emotions. I tend to prioritize others over myself, and they have noticed this as well. They had not taken their medication, which contributed to their instability. They responded with, "Now you understand how I feel, just envision that but for months." This felt unfair to me, so I communicated that. They apologized and explained their medication situation. I reminded them to take care of themselves, and they did. A day or so later, things escalated again. They inquired about my well-being, and I told them I was not doing well. When they asked why, I mentioned something I had written intending to express my discomfort and set boundaries. Due to our history and their fatigue, they panicked and assumed I had negative intentions and would blame them for everything. This was not true, as my writing was only to convey my feelings and establish limits. I tried explaining this, but they remained fearful. I attempted to comfort them, but could tell that their fear and distrust persisted. Recognizing the pain I was causing, I suggested that perhaps this relationship was unhealthy for them. I later realized this was not the right time to bring it up, and I apologized. This intensified their panic, leading them to feel upset because, rather than supporting them, I was proposing that this relationship might be detrimental for us both. After I voiced this, they perceived it as a threat and admonished me for not helping when I tried to offer comfort afterward. They took some time away from me, and eventually, we discussed everything and exchanged apologies. A few days later, we experienced another conflict. I confided in them again about suppressing my feelings, but they responded with, "It stings a little that you can talk about your feelings while I have had to suppress mine." This was not what I needed to hear. I was attempting to share my feelings and was told I was being unfair by opening up. This upset me, as I felt unacknowledged and silenced. I tried to express this, but they insisted they were doing nothing wrong and accused me of blaming them for their emotions, placing the responsibility for the tension upon me. They then reiterated for the third time that we are not suitable for one another and that this relationship cannot work. They ended things briefly, but after an hour of crying and pleading to work things out, I took them back, feeling quite depressed without them. They suggested we talk to a friend for guidance, and we planned it. We had a call with our friend to discuss how to resolve our issues. Although it went well, there were moments when both of us became defensive due to miscommunication, leading to heightened tensions. Our friend had to intervene several times to help us calm down. Eventually, we began to understand what we each needed to improve our attentiveness to one another. They apologized for not being present, and I apologized for the same reason. However, I feel that this was not fully acted upon. I will explain why shortly. Yesterday, we had an intricate conversation about what occurred, and it turned out positively. This was largely due to our extensive note-taking, which helped us process each other's thoughts better. We communicate more effectively via text than on calls. I should mention that we are in a long-distance relationship. Our success in discussing the situation stemmed from our detailed notes that compelled us to understand one another's viewpoints. Fast forward to today. I decided to share my feelings of depression and my fear that if I were inattentive because of my circumstances, our relationship would end. For context, my inattentiveness throughout our relationship has primarily been attributed to my depression and lack of motivation. I was still troubled by everything and fearful of not being adequate for them. They became upset since this felt sudden and coincided with the start of our call. They preferred to enjoy our time together without delving into heavy issues because we have been under considerable stress already. Additionally, they take mental health seriously and interpreted my comments as implying they would not care about my depression. Observing their discomfort, I apologized and reassured them that my intent was purely fear-driven and not directed at them. We exchanged thoughts back and forth a few times until they asked me to drop the topic, which I plan to do after addressing a few points. Their reasoning was that we have been caught in what they perceive as unnecessary drama lately. I disagreed, insisting our discussions reflect much-needed communication in light of our ongoing stress. I went off the call to communicate via text again, but they pressured me into another call, even though I felt uneasy about it because I didn't want us to argue. However, I complied. Also, I'm uncertain when this arose, but I mentioned feeling uncared for, which seemed to upset them even more. This led us down another spiral and yet another argument. They called and chastised me for not being present, claiming that I was not accommodating enough. I was taken aback because I believed I had been making an effort to be more accommodating. They then withdrew and tried to suppress their feelings for my sake. I encouraged them not to do that, affirming that I wanted to be there for them, yet they insisted they did not matter, only I did. They felt that whenever they expressed their feelings, it always resulted in conflict. I reiterated, as they had stated, that perhaps this relationship may not work and that it seemed fixable. Amid all this, I blocked their number but felt guilty afterward and unblocked it. This was an action I had never taken before out of hurt. They expressed a desire to end things for the second time but quickly recanted. We both cried for a while and agreed to refrain from addressing the events of the past week or two, only revisiting the issues once we have both healed, as we currently feel a lot of resentment and need space to recover and process everything that has transpired.